sir. Yes, sir.
Uh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. H.O.M.E, House of Melanated Excellence. We are back, man, with the legend himself, Saladin Allah. Stay putting in that work, man. And yo, we're gonna keep it moving, man. And that was a very, heartfelt testimony that you shared with us, man. And it's something that we're gonna have to sit with and meditate on and really try to see exactly where we going in life, man. And reflection is definitely one of the things that we can utilize to help us navigate through those type of tragedies and traumas that we deal with on an everyday basis, brother. So thank you again.
No doubt.
One of the things I recognize, man, you went to the UN, United Nations, and you stood up and you asked the question.
Thank you so much for us.
Peace, everybody. My name is Saladin Allah. I represent the 5% Nation of Gods and Earths. You will also see me in episode 5 that focuses on resistance. In that episode, I speak about my ancestry. And I come here today representing those people of African descent that survived that great Mayafa. I'm the third great grandson of Josiah Henson, who was a famous Underground Railroad freedom seeker whom Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote about in her famous novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'm also the director of community engagement at the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center. And my question to you, sis, is there's a growing movement for people that represent Africans that were born here in America, not the islands, here in America. So I wanted to know, what is your perspective on that growing movement for reparations regarding foundational Black Americans?
Are you talking about ADOS?
Or foundational Black Americans, those of us who are born here in this country? Because even with some of the comments that I've heard, I've felt a little excluded because my people were not included in that conversation. So I wanted to know, what is your perspective on that?
Thank you.
And I can't remember the young lady's name, beautiful woman as well, but I can't remember her name. But I was vicariously like there with you. I'm like, yo, that's a lot of like, what's going? Like, is she nervous? What's going on with him? So what's the United Nations, and how did you end up there? Like, what was the purpose of you even being there, bro?
Wow, yeah. So that was an eye-opening experience.
I bet.
Yeah, so when you talk about the United Nations, it's really a general assembly of about 190 through 93 member states. So you have 193 countries that are part of this General Assembly, and they come together to discuss policy, programs, and initiatives that support humanity.
Okay.
You have some countries that are not a member of it, but you also have the recognition of sovereign indigenous nations as well. They're not member states, but they are recognized by the United Nations as sovereign entities or sovereign nations.
Got you. Okay.
So, yeah, so it was, okay, so when I did the Enslaved docuseries with Samuel L. Jackson,
right,
that was also a part of a larger initiative that's been going on since 2015 called the International Decade for People of African Descent. So the General Assembly back in 2015, they created this initiative to highlight just the contributions as well as the struggles of people of African descent around the globe for an entire decade. So from 2015 all the way up, and it's going to conclude in 2024. They've been coming together each year and hosting a variety of various different events to highlight us as an original people around the globe.
Got you.
Wow.
So once I did the Enslaved docuseries, that was also a part of this overall celebration of international people of African descent. So because I was a part of the docuseries, I started to get invitations to be a part of panel discussions and to be linked to the United Nations in that kind of capacity.
Got you.
Nice.
Okay.
Wow. So then from there, I also work with the United Nations because they did a video, a short doc about me as well. The work that I do here in my city as an educator, and also some of the Underground Railroad heritage that I also help advocate as a director of the Niagara Falls Underground Railroad Heritage Center here.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. Okay, so when the United Nations reach out to you, like what do you, like how do you receive that, bro? Like that's like you know, that you like, oh, that's cool, or are you like, wow, you know what I'm saying? I'm really doing my thing. Like how do you reconcile that, brother?
Man, it's you really get an opportunity to see how your work is amplified and it's reaching people globally.
Gotcha.
You know, we can say like we have a global platform, but that in itself is a level of legitimacy in terms of your ability to reach a global audience that you can only gain through the United Nations, because that is the purpose of why they were established.
Facts.
As a General Assembly of member states.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So there's a lot of things that I learned, and going to the United Nations, man.
Oh, take your time, brother. Take your time, bro.
So like I mentioned, you have indigenous nations who are recognized by the United Nations.
Yes,
right. And then you have this international program that's been going on to recognize people of African descent over a decade. Now, people of African descent, they're also linked to a nation. So it's not just celebrating people who would be classified as Black here in America, but it's recognizing our people across the globe. Gotcha. Now, when you go to the United Nations, you are attending an assembly of other nations. So whatever nation you're a citizen of, you're there on behalf of representing that particular nation.
Got you.
Now, we know here, we are a nation within a nation in America. We don't necessarily just see ourselves as being American, because just since our inception, we haven't been given the rights of citizenry and recognized as equal members or citizens of this country. So we've always, just as people of African descent, have always had a question about
nationality,
our patriotism and our nationality being, you know, American. Right. So now, when I stepped into the United Nations, even though I look at myself as being a member of the nation of the 5%, or if I was a Hebrew Israelite, or if I was a Nubian, or if I was a Kemetic,
or you was a Moor,
whatever, I would be stepping into that building, but I would not be represented in terms of acknowledged as a member state. So that's very critical to understand, right? Because if you step into the building of the United Nations, you're a citizen of America.
Okay.
That's your citizenship.
Yes.
Right? Others who are there, they have a citizenship or nationality.
All right.
So the conversations that you're having are going to be framed within the context of your nationality.
Got you.
If you come in there and you have citizenship in America, but you don't really see yourself as American, you know, you're more,
right,
or you're Nubian, or you're of the Nation of Islam or something like that, that is not a conversation that you're going to necessarily be having with other member states, because they have a nationality. They have a flag. They're recognized around the globe as a part of a General Assembly. And if you're not a sovereign nation, they also don't recognize you.
Wow.
So it was pretty awkward being in there, because I'm not really in there as a ambassador of America. I'm a Black man in America.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
So a lot of the conversation that was being held in that General Assembly was not specifically to Black people in America, because we're not a nation.
Oh, okay. Got you.
So this is nation conversation.
Nation
conversation.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's right.
So if you're bringing up issues that you're having, that's domestic issues for you. That's not a nation-to-nation issue.
You should be having this conversation with your nation. That's what
exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Which means that's not our problem. That we ain't got nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
That's a domestic issue. That's something that you're dealing with within your own territory.
Gotcha.
Right? So I could see how we have been invisible because of no sense of nationality. And the reason why Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., why El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, why others were striving to create an African Union and to have us recognized as a part of that framework of nationality, because we were treated and seen as invisible or looked at as our issues were a domestic issue. They're not really a human rights issue. It's more civil rights. You're just having issues within your own nation as citizens.
Got you.
You know?
Okay.
So it was, it was kind of like, we're sitting there and there's brothers who come from different African states, member states, and they're having a conversation from the perspective of being from this nation in Africa. Okay. There were other brothers and sisters who were having conversations and they come from some of the Caribbean island or member states.
Got you.
From those nations. And I'm sitting in there like, shit, I ain't gonna be speaking on behalf of America because I ain't patriotic like that, and I don't identify in that kind of way.
Got you.
But because I wasn't representing a nation in that capacity as like a member state or a part of the General Assembly, the whole conversation is not specifically about us. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yet they're talking about subjects such as a transatlantic trade of enslaved people that impacts us.
Right.
But I could literally see how not having a sense of nationality also shows a lack of power or influence when it comes to a critical mass, when it comes to an economic base, when it comes to a military, because we don't have the capacity to speak because we don't have that type of network or support system.
Okay.
Like others can.
Okay.
Others can.
So let's pause right there for a second. We're gonna come right back there because I want to highlight something you said. First, we went to reflection. Now there's a word coming up called recognize, being recognized. What's the science? What's the understanding of being recognized? What kind of power is gained? What does that mean to be recognized?
Well, in the context of what I was saying, in terms of being a nation or having a sense of sovereignty, it also means having a sense of identity and that you're not invisible.
Got you.
And if you're not invisible, that also means that your concerns, the things that are important to you, how you raise your family, economic opportunities, everything is also a part of being visible or being recognized and being acknowledged and being respected. All of those things are vitally important. And if you're not recognized or if you are invisible, then all of those aspects of your way of life, your culture, your family, all of those people activities can be not only minimized, but they could be dismissed. And you can be treated any kind of way that you want. So typically, when you look at this General Assembly, when you have United Nations, they set up embassies in different countries. Right. And these embassies are ways to help facilitate a relationship between your nation and another nation.
Yes, sir.
So if you're having an issue in a foreign jurisdiction, you can get sanctuary in that actual embassy. If you don't have a nation, there's no sanctuary.
Wow.
People can do whatever they want to you.
Whatever you...
Because you don't have land and you're not connected to a place.
Damn.
So it was strategic, the way in which our people have been constantly renamed and redefined since we've been in this country, from being colored, Negro, Afro-American, African-American, Black, whatever. And you know, in this society, we see a lot of pride in the ways in which we define ourselves, but without that sense of nationality, there's also no sense of sanctuary.
No sense of
And how does that affect
You know what
the
I'm saying?
psychological immunity when you don't have a sense of sanctuary?
Oh,
So,
yeah. You're
wow.
completely vulnerable. You're
A lot of people don't know that, though. You know, how many of us know that? You know, we're fighting out here, you know, thinking we can just go to whatever country, you know, our country, and just plead, or maybe even go to the UN and plead. I don't know. I never even knew all that until you just said it.
You know what, though? You might not intellectually know it, but you can sense it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Like they don't care or something?
Yeah, no, you can sense that you don't have a sanctuary. Whether you are adept or whatever, you can, because it's affecting your psychology. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
By you not having that sanctuary, it's affecting you on a maybe on a subtle level. You know what I'm saying? How you engage with people, how you defend yourself, how you defend your family, how you stick up for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's something that we need to look at.
And then also why other nations are not they're not really prompted to come in here and help, because these are domestic issues that we're having. When Malcolm went over there, a short time period after that, he was assassinated.
Yes.
When Martin Luther King started having that conversation about reframing the issues that was happening to us, not as civil rights, but as human rights, what he was essentially saying is we have to bring this to the General Assembly. This has to be a conversation that member states who are part of this union need to start talking about and having conversations about how they can address that.
Yes, sir.
And nobody wanted that.
Nah, Dr. King said we're gonna get our check.
Because now it's everybody's issue.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like you look at things that happen like maybe in a person's home. You know, if it's framed as like a domestic issue, you know, people may not, you know, that's what's going on in your household. They may not want to get involved in anything like that. But then when you start reframing it as, you know, something that is happening to affect the community, or this is a public safety issue, or you reframe it, now everybody need to be concerned because you're affecting the entire community.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Great analogy.
So language is important. Language is vitally important. And that's one thing that I learned, just seeing that we have a sense of invisibility when it comes to that General Assembly of what the United Nations is and how they recognize sovereign nations of indigenous people, but we're just here.
Right.
And we're vulnerable and we're open to anything happening to us.
Wow.
You know?
Man. So,
and the only thing is just, oh, my bad, God.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the only thing that's holding us back is what we call ourselves.
Well, part of that is, you know, our own sense of self-determination and definition, our identity, but also having a true sense of nationality.
Okay.
That's definitely
true sense
has put limitation. Yeah, that's definitely put limitations on our ability to define ourselves and protect ourselves.
Right. I mean, you're not recognized. I mean, that's a very powerful thing when you're not recognized. How, I mean, that's affecting you in so many ways, brother. Going back to the courtroom situation, you know what I'm saying? They could change the narrative. They can do certain things. It's something that we really need to investigate and look at, man, and start taking very seriously.
And then you think about this, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his perspective in terms of nationality is one thing that he advocated is not only separation, but give us these states in the South and let us have our own nation there.
Right.
Same thing with Noble Drew Ali. He advocated the sense of nationality. You look at Marcus Garvey. He was like, yo, we need to just go back to Africa.
Right.
And you had others who were saying we need to repatriate back to Africa, or we need to form our own nation in Liberia. Or there's a lot of us that understood that sense of nationality. And, you know, many of us think that just assimilating into this society is going to be enough.
Man, you know, that's very powerful what you just said, brother. And matter of fact, I want to go to the question you asked at the United Nations. Was this question already premeditated, or was it a spur of the moment question? And did the answer suffice for you at that time?
So when I was experiencing this sense of invisibility, realizing that I'm there not as a representative of the Black nation in America,
right,
or I'm the representative of this particular nation in America, and I'm seeing this whole conversation going around, things that we've experienced as a people of African descent growing up in this society.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yo, y'all talking about us like we ain't here. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
wow.
right.
What y'all talking
about?
Right.
I see you speaking from the perspective of your nation, and you speaking from the perspective of your nation. And, as a people, there's just this sense of invisibility when it comes to our real issues and concerns. It's kind of like we make the world go round in terms of our contributions to world civilization and world culture.
Yes, sir.
Just as a people.
Yes, sir.
You just look at hip hop, like we've influenced the entire world just with that alone. Mm-hmm. And when you look at America itself, the biggest export in America is not actual materials or resources. Mm-hmm. It's ideas and culture. Mm-hmm. And we're the driving force behind that export of what would be considered or classified as American culture. We make it cool.
Right, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
So it's ironic that even though we have that level of influence, our issues and our concerns within this nation are not recognized, and we're treated as invisible when it comes to us having a sense of equity and justice in this society.
Yes, sir.
But yet we are the driving force behind influence the entire world.
That's
you know what I mean?
Word. Influence is a powerful word, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saladin.
So,
can you remember what was said when you were sitting there in the UN and you realizing, man, they're speaking about us like we ain't here. What were they saying? Do you remember what they said, or something that made you say, wow? You remember anything?
Well, their whole conversations were about the impact of slavery on their nations.
On their nation.
Yeah. Like, we are the ones who were most impacted and affected by slavery. Like I said, you have the International Decade to recognize the transatlantic trade of enslaved people that's been going on since 2015. And the conversations they were having wasn't centered around the impact that it was having on people of African descent in America. They weren't even having that kind of conversation, or even including us in that conversation.
Wow.
I had to make sure that we were included in that conversation and let them know that, we are the ones who have been most impacted by this, what we call the Great Mayafa, or this great Holocaust of our people. We are the ones who have been most impacted. It's really important for other nations to centralize that discussion around us, because we are really the ascendants, not descendants, because that just means a downward expression, but ascendants.
I like that.
Of this history.
Ascendants. Wow.
The world will change when we are the ones who are really the ambassadors of that change. Everything really revolves around us here in America.
Man.
We have our people who've gone through colonialism and other different types of experiences, but there's no people on this planet who have actually gone through what we've actually gone through. And it doesn't make us better. Like, some people create this divisiveness, like we ain't this, we ain't that, and all of that. It doesn't make us better, but it just makes us a testimony that we can still have that sense of divinity and that sense of justice and that sense of righteousness, even though we've gone through the worst that you could even imagine.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So one of the things I was talking about, and I'm paraphrasing it, is I was asking them about their perspective on the growing movement that we have here in this country in terms of our identity as foundational Black Americans or American descendants of slaves, because the conversation that they were having about slavery, whatever, it didn't acknowledge that there's a growing movement of us right here in America for reparations.
Yes, sir.
For us reclaiming our cultural identity and holding this society accountable for the things that we've experienced.
Yes, sir.
That's really central to any of the movement of people of African descent on this entire planet.
Yes, sir.
So that conversation needs to be centralized around us.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it wasn't centralized around us. It was kind of like this conversation about what Jamaica's doing, holding these banks accountable, you know, and what this nation is doing or whatever. And it's like, y'all know that this is because of us being here.
Yeah.
We only having this conversation because we are here. And I was the minority even in the room. Everybody was from somewhere else, except for like maybe a couple of people in that entire room. So I'm like, yo, I'm the only person that will be classified as a person of African descent or a Black person in America in this entire room.
And where did it take place at?
It was at the United Nations in New York.
In New York. Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Man.
So yeah, so that was and that was, you know, I was also present on a couple of other different panel discussions virtually, you know, when the pandemic and stuff was going on. But that was the first time I was actually there in person.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, more of us need to be up in here because we don't even have a presence in the United Nations. We're not even present there because, again, we are citizens of America. And unless, and, you know, and as a member state, you would typically represent the nation that you have citizenship in, and that is America.
Yes, sir.
You know, but our issues and concerns, America's not even addressing. So a lot of us don't have that patriotism or look at ourselves really with that same sense of citizenry as, you know, maybe people classified as white do and as patriotic as they are in this country. So I'm there like, yo, damn, we ain't got a place up in here.
Right.
You know?
Man. You know, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, man, because you mentioned hip hop, and you did just put out a album, which I didn't know you spit as well. I mean, I did know, but I didn't know. You feel me? Like I didn't, you know. But what's the album about, man? How does that tie into everything you're doing, and how did that come about?
Man, so I'm about to go back with you, right? So I've been doing music for years, and it really started out of me, you know, my real love is writing. So I've always been a writer, started writing poetry, and then eventually I started to do music. You know, at one point back in like the late 90s, me, my brother, my cousin, some of my other colleagues, we had a rap group called the Lost Tribe of Atlantis. And we were in the process of signing a contract with Wu-Tang Clan.
Wow.
So yeah, so we were negotiating a contract with them way back in the late 90s.
Wow.
So yeah, so we performed a lot, you know, and I've always continued to have that love for music and producing, writing. And when I'm inspired, I just create, you know, and I think it's important that we all have a creative outlet in whatever form that it is. If we are into performance art, we have to create that kind of space in our life to be able to express ourselves in that way. If we're a painter, we need to be able to create that space so that we can express ourselves in that capacity at any time we want. Because that's really a part of us being able to maintain a sense of homeostasis and balance psychologically, because a lot of times the things that we deal with, we need an outlet, and being able to express ourselves creatively is vitally important. So I've always made sure that I have that type of creative space where I'm able to just produce music whenever I want. I'm able to write music. I'm able to record music. And that has definitely helped me maintain my sense of health mentally as well as physically. And I always encourage people to make sure they have that kind of space as well.
Yes, sir. Man. So tell us about the album, man. What's the name of it? What's the science behind the album that you dropped?
Yeah, so Man, the most recent one that I did, it was a collaborative project with a brother. It was called As Above, So Below. And we probably recorded the album within maybe a few months. You know, I just got into a creative groove where I'm like, man, I'm just send me some production and I'm gonna write to it. You know what I'm saying? So that was my most recent project. I have like maybe 5 maybe other different projects. And right now I'm always recording and producing something. So, and I never really let people know in advance. I just share it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you said that on our first build. Yeah, you was like, you don't say it, you just do it, and then you know it's done. So definitely taking
can't talk to nobody about it.
Yeah, because it's like it's something that's coming through me and I have to get it out. You know, and it's not even done for the purpose of being critiqued or whether people like it or not. I just have to get this through me.
Right.
And that's how I operate. You know, whether that's a book, whether that's music, whether that is anything. It's like I feel the necessity to get it through me. And willfully it becomes a type of contribution to this world that brings more beauty. And when I'm no longer here physically, people will have an opportunity to also reflect on those different type of contributions that can help enhance their quality of life.
Yes, sir.
Man.
No, sir.
Man. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Listen, bro, we're gonna take another little intermission, man, and I'll come back, man, and we gotta get to Tanzania, baby.
Tanzania.
We gotta get to Tanzania, man. Yo, y'all already know, man. Saladin Allah, H.O.M.E, House of Melanated Excellence. Be right back. Some brothers ain't into that, man. Some brothers ain't got the time for that. See, but they got it in their own heart. They ain't too much stuff in your heart. You gotta be good, everybody.
Nowadays, I really can't be concerned. I done show more love than I got in return. My biggest flaw is showing love before discernment.